Good. All right. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the regular scheduled Tabortown Council meeting for February the 10th, 2025. We'll call the meeting to order and ask for the adoption of the agenda, please. Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council adopts the agenda as amended to allow for the opportunity to undertake agenda item 8.1, delegation, Mr. Grant Hunter, MLA, immediately prior to the public hearings.
All right, thank you. Adoption of the amended agenda on the table. All in favor? Councillor Bruin?
In favor.
Carried unanimously. Thank you. We do have Councillor Bruin online for the record with us as well. So, Mr. Tebow.
Just the amended motion for the agenda, Mayor. I believe it was to be after the adoption of the immediately after the adoption of the agenda.
That's correct.
I think what was said was after the public hearings.
Prior to, I said.
Oh, prior to.
She did
My
say
apologies.
that. Yes.
Thank you.
No, we're good. All right. All right, we're on to the next item. That would be MLA Grant Hunter. Welcome. Whichever you prefer, either one. Just need to press that mic activation button and
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. I wasn't here too long ago, but I didn't want you guys to feel left out because I was going around to the other councils. And so I wanted to make sure I gave you the update. So the purpose of first of the year council meetings is to talk about what happened last year, what we kind of foresee this year coming up, and then also to talk about any of the emergent issues or concerns that you might have in your town. Soon to be called the city, from what I understand. So we're working on it. No? Okay.
no, we did explore that, but we've
Chosen not to.
chosen not to at
Well,
this stage anyway. But
I'm out of the
decision.
loop.
Yeah.
Last year, we had a fairly good year in terms of passing pieces of legislation. I think that we addressed some important issues in Alberta. As you know, there is a lot of fight going on right now with Ottawa, and I don't foresee that letting up until we see an election. The federal government we've won a few court cases with the federal government when it comes to C-69 and a couple of their bills the No More Pipelines bills and so forth. And we are, however, unfortunately, even though we win these court cases, they continue to drag their heels on making the changes to these things. So we will continue to push on those things. We do have in our Constitution provincial and federal jurisdiction. It's very different than what you see down in the States. And so we will make sure that we have what we need in terms of provincial jurisdiction. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is I know that there's been desire by council to do a rail spur. And so I've written a letter to the minister and in support of that rail spur. So this is for STIP funding. Now, I will tell you that STIP funding has never been used for rail spurs before. And so as I was talking to your mayor about this, that is, we hope that we can get the STIP funding for that. But it hasn't been done yet. But I know that Minister Dreeshen, as I've talked to him, I've explained that these rail spurs are extremely critical for us to be able to build out our agri-food processing corridor, and each of these communities need to have them in order to be able to land these agri-food processing companies as they come in. So that is ongoing. The STIP funding. We have a budget that's coming out on the 27th of February, so we go back into session on the 25th. The budget will be released on the 27th. And then STIP funding is later on when we start talking about where the STIP funding is going to be going to. So that's, I believe, later in March when we start finding out about STIP funding. I also wanted to you guys also had mentioned that you were concerned about the Canada Alberta Job Grant funding. And unfortunately, the minister didn't get a brief back to me soon enough, so I apologize. I can't give you any more information other than what I've told you before. And then the other question was increased funding for infrastructure in the communities. So you're going to have to wait for the budget to come out to find out where we're at when it comes to funding for infrastructure. But I think that I know we recognize that there have been increases, inflationary increases and pressures. And so we are trying to provide more money for that. That's about all I can say without saying more than I should. So what do we see for the future? This year is going to be a tough year. I think that President Trump has made it very clear that he is going to bring in some form of tariff. I will say that our premier has done, I think, what the federal government should have been doing, going down and speaking and trying to dialogue and employ diplomacy with President Trump and his team. She spent 2 weeks down there at a very critical time, and I think that's one of the reasons why President Trump first of all said that he was going to only do 10% on the oil and gas. He recognizes that the majority of the feedstock that's going into the United States for oil and gas is coming from Alberta, 4.3 million barrels a day. And the important thing about it is it's heavy, so it's the heavy stock, and so they use that to make the diesels down in the States. And so he wants to be able to jumpstart his economy, and she did a very good job, in my opinion, of telling him, you put a tariff on this, it's going to affect your ability to jumpstart your economy. And I think that's why he said 10%. The other good thing about it was he actually pushed it off 30 days. But from what I understand, on Monday, he's going to be putting a tariff on steel and aluminum, which I would say more is not so much about Canada, it's more about China. This is really, if you take a look at it, the fight is really not with Canada, it's with China. I just think that because of the toxic relationship between Trudeau and Trump, we have a big bullseye on our back now, and I'm disappointed in that because all Canadians will be in trouble because of it. So I think tariffs are coming to Alberta and the rest of Canada, which is unfortunate. And when it comes to things like potatoes, from what I understand, talking with some of the potato producers and companies, they've said that they're probably going to either try to pass on some of that cost or they're going to absorb that cost. So they recognize, and it's not just potatoes, it's the sugar industry, it's all of the produce that we have coming out of here. They recognize that if they have a disruption in the supply of products, that they could lose their market share, and they don't want to lose that market share. It took them a long time to be able to develop that market share, and so even if there is these things, they will pass that price on, or they will also have to absorb it themselves. So, we're concerned about job losses. We're concerned about GDP growth or GDP drop. But I think generally speaking, because we send so much raw material to the States, I think that we'll be okay through this. And because most of the companies that I've talked to, I've talked to quite a few, have said that they do not want to disrupt that supply chain. They saw that what happened in COVID, how they lost, some of them lost market share during that time, and they won't want to do that again. So that was actually probably the best news that I received, because I was very concerned about us losing jobs and having companies shut down. But I still don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know how bad it's going to get. And I think that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. And then any other questions you guys have for me?
All right, sure. Thank you, MLA Grant Hunter. Appreciate that very much. Any questions arising? None whatsoever. Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Emily, for attending our meeting and explaining the situation with the problems and the tariff threats. We mentioned the spur line briefly. Coaldale's got a spur line. You're their MLA also. I understand their funding was half the company, Nuco, and half by the council. Do you understand that?
No, they, so New Cold, I think New Cold put some in. I don't believe that they put half in, but you'd have to talk to them. If I remember correctly, they did most of the work from the town. So they've also applied for the STIP funding as well, but they've not received it. So again, they're trying to get some STIP funding as well.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? I just had one, I know we didn't have a whole lot with the immigration program information out there, but I guess initially we were told that January we'd find out some of that information, but that's still, the whole thing is not completely out there as far as
It
any
isn't.
accurate information.
Not yet.
Okay, we have been swamped with questions,
Yeah.
both our administration and council. It's constantly getting questions on that, so I guess the sooner that can come out, the better for us to have some kind of bona fide answer. Councilor McLean?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I was just wondering if you had an update on the AHS thing that's going on right now with the province.
Which AHS issue? Because there's about 50 that I know of, but which one are you specifically talking about?
Specifically with like the head of AHS resigning and the difficulty that the province is having with I don't know, getting along with the AHS and trying to figure out what are we going to do going forward with AHS? Are we still using AHS or are we going to be using somebody else? Do we have?
Oh, I see. Okay.
Kind of direction?
Well, there's two things there. First of all, yes, that is correct. Athana Metsalopoulos was the CEO. I know Athana very well, an excellent person. She was actually kind of acting deputy minister when I was red tape reduction minister. And high-performing, solid person. That's what I'll say about Athana. And so that it's concerning to me what I read in the Globe and Mail article. It just happened pretty soon, like just recently, and so I don't know what else to tell you, Councillor, other than it doesn't look good when the CEO is fired and then the full board is fired as well shortly thereafter, like very, very soon thereafter. But I will, we've got caucus meetings happening. I will try to get some more information. I don't like to receive the information through the media because they have a certain lens that they like to see things out of, and they're trying to sell newspapers and stuff like that. So I'll take it like trust but verify. That's always my motto. And so I'm going to take a look at what's going on, what the minister tells me. I can tell you in terms of character, like Adriana LaGrange, I've known her for many years. She's as solid as they come. I often call her the Margaret Thatcher of Alberta politics because she's just a solid, strong, good person. So. But I also know Athana is a good person as well. So I got to get to the bottom of this. I wish I could tell you where that's all going to roll. I don't know. When it comes to what AHS's role is going to be, they are going to be acute care. So they're going to focus on hospitals, and we've kind of broken them out into those 4 parts. And they're going to focus specifically on acute care, so hospitals. Now, they will be one of others that will be having the opportunity to do RFPs for the contract to manage our hospitals. And AHS, some of them do better than others. I know in the south zone here, I think they've done a pretty good job, at least when it comes to keeping on budget. I would say up in Calgary, I haven't seen much strength in terms of their abilities to keep on budget. So would they lose that? Possibly. Could they keep other ones? I think as long as they keep it on budget, and they're providing the outcomes that we're looking for. One of the problems that we have with hospitals right now is we give them a blanket, budget, and then we don't really look for outcomes, like how many hip replacements are going to be, how many surgeries are going to be done. Whereas in European countries, they say your budget specific about how many of these operations you're going to provide. And so we have to go to that model, or else we're not going to have good outcomes. And that's what I think, I shouldn't say think, I know that's where Minister LaGrange is going.
All right, thank you. Councillor Sorensen?
Thank you. Nice seeing you again, MLA. I just wanted to bring up the Alberta Job Grant funding. So I know the federal government kind of reduced the funding for that, but I just want to be an advocate for small business because it does help train and help develop the skills of the employees. So I know there was a questionnaire that was sent to employers. Is there any update as to how the program's going to evolve at all?
I talked to Matt Jones. He's the Minister of JET, Jobs, Economy and Trade. And he said the problem we face is that there's just this black hole in Ottawa right now. And so they're not getting any information out. From what I understand, Pierre Poilievre is quite committed to that Canada-Alberta Jobs Grant and the way that it was run before. And so that is, I believe that if Pierre does win an election, if it happens sooner than later, that we will be able to get back to where we need to be. It is a great program. I agree. It's worked very well. There were some things happening that under the Trudeau Liberals that I thought was uncalled for. Some of the requirements they were looking for were silly. So I'd like to be able to see us get back to some kind of common sense on that. And I think that as I've listened to Minister Jones, as he's talked to his federal counterparts, the Conservatives are looking to get back to something normal on that. Yeah.
All right, any other questions? All right, well, thank you again so much, Emily Grant Hunter. Appreciate you being here as always a pleasure. And we will leave it at that for now. Thank you. All right, moving on, we do have 4 public hearings here. Item 3.1, public hearing for land use bylaw amendment 2-2025 for redistricting. Mr. Thibault.
We'll ask Ms. Selena Newberry and Chris Egan to come forward and speak to this.
All right, first off, I will call the public hearing to order. And just advise that the members of the public in attendance who wish to speak against or for land use bylaw amendment 2-2025 for redistricting will have a 5-minute time limit for speaking and must state their full name for the record. And if they are speaking for themselves or on behalf of any group or organization. All right, thank you. Ms. Newberry.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So
Good
this is the first of 4 public hearings that we're going to be having today. This one is for a redistricting. We did the first reading at our last council meeting. This one is looking to redistrict the property at 5605 64th Street from its current district of heavy industrial to a medium industrial, just to allow for more development options in the future.
All right, thank you. And nothing has come through the office whatsoever?
Yes, at this time I've received no written or email or phone calls or anything like that.
All right, thank you. All right, go through the next format then. Is there anyone wishing to speak against bylaw 2-2025 for redistricting? Anyone wishing to speak against bylaw 2-2025 for redistricting a second time? Anyone present wishing to speak against land use bylaw amendment 2-2025 for redistricting a third and final time? All right, seeing none. Pardon me? Can I say one thing? Sure. Sorry, just state your full name.
Tim Miller.
Yes.
I live on the east side of the highway there.
All right.
So my question is, what's going to happen with the highway turning lanes and everything else to access that new proposed road?
All right, so just to confirm, Mr. Tebow, I don't know that we're taking questions per se. It's comments from anybody wishing to speak to that, and or can Selena or
So
Mr.
when
Reed
is-
speak to that.
When is that gonna be discussed then?
I'll get Selena Newberry to come forward and she can answer that question.
I believe he's more interested in bylaw 3-2023, specifically the development up on the north end of town. This is south by the sugar factory.
Oh, I see, okay, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
And then, so if you would like to speak on that, you do need to do it during the public hearing, and then more happens later on.
So that's not today then?
No, it is today, and today would be the one chance you would have to speak publicly and be heard about it. So
Right, okay.
when they do the next public hearing, then you can speak at that time.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, thank you. All right, so with that, anyone wishing to speak for bylaw amendment 2-2025? Anyone wishing to speak for amendment 2-2025 for redistricting a second time? Anybody wishing to speak for amendment 2-2025 for redistricting a third and final time? All right, just seeing none, just ask for a motion to accept that for information. Councilor Beckert?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Prepared to make a motion that council accepts for information the input received in this public hearing for land use bylaw amendment 2-2025 for redistricting.
Thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried
Favor.
unanimously. Thank you. And I will hereby close the public hearing. On to item 3.2. We'll call that public meeting order, or public hearing to order, rather. Again, members of the public in attendance who wish to speak against or for land use bylaw amendment 3-2025 for redistricting will have a 5-minute time limit for speaking and must state their full name for the record. Also must state if they are speaking for themselves or on behalf of any group or organization. All right, Mr. Tebow?
Again, we'll have Selena and Chris come forward.
All right.
Again, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I think you're going to see me a few times
Good
today.
afternoon.
This public hearing is for our land use bylaw amendment 3-2025. This particular bylaw is to redistrict all the land up in Eureka, our Eureka Industrial Park. So this is up at the north end of town. It's currently urban reserve, and we're just looking to redistrict it to a medium industrial district. It is in line with the area structure plan. And this would be required before any development could occur on these properties. And we have required it as well as we're trying to subdivide some lots out up in this area.
All right, very well. And have any written briefs or oral briefs come forward your way, for or against?
I did not, I was gonna say, I think I had some for the subdivision for this, but not for the actual amendment that was sent out.
All right, very well. Is anyone present wishing to speak against land use bylaw amendment 3-2025 for redistricting? All right, come on forward, you bet.
Okay, Tim Miller.
All right, thank you.
On this, that you're doing on the west side of the highway, I own the other side of on the east side. So my concern is, and I'm just wondering what the access is gonna be off the highway to this. Like, is it gonna be widening, twinning, turning lanes or?
Right, right. Again, Mr. Tebow, as far as questions, I mean, it's, anyone speaking is more than willing to, or more than able to rather, speak about any concerns or in favors they may have. But, questions can be directed to the planning office.
Questions can certainly be taken here or taken away from here, and administration can get back to the individuals that have the questions.
Okay, so you've heard Mr. Miller's direct questions, I guess?
Yep, administration's heard that. I believe we do already have an answer, but I don't
Okay.
want to speak on behalf of the planning department at this point in time. But there's always plans that have to go through Alberta Transportation when we do things like this, and they will weigh in on exactly what needs to take place here. So planning can certainly reach out, Tim, and and help you understand what that looks like.
Because back when you guys put the turning lanes in for that turning lane, Tolstrup had done that project, and they piled all the dirt in the ditch on the east side of the highway, was supposed to have been removed. And I brought it to town council, and Gary Shearer said that it was easier for the town to do it than to fight them in court. And it's never been done, so I'm wondering if that's gonna take part in this project as well.
All right, good point. I do remember that. Actually, now that you say that. So that can also be followed up on? with
Yep,
some,
we can definitely follow up on that with you, Tim.
Okay,
All
that'd be
right.
great.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks.
Thank you very much. And anyone wishing to speak against land use bylaw 3-2025 for redistricting the second time? Anybody wish to speak against land use bylaw amendment 3-2025 a third time? Anyone wish to speak for land use bylaw amendment 3-2025? Anybody wish to speak for land use amendment 3-2025 for redistricting the second time? Anyone present wish to speak for the land use bylaw amendment 3-2025 for redistricting a third and final time? Seeing none, I would ask for that motion. Councilor Renfert?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make a motion that council accept for information the input received at this public hearing for land use bylaw amendment 3-2025 for redistricting.
Right, motion on the table. All in favor? Councilor Bruin?
Favor.
All right,
Favor.
carried now, thank you. And I will also close that hearing. On to agenda item 3.3. Public hearing for DP-00 or 25-004. We'll call that public hearing to order. And again, members of the public in attendance who wish to speak against for direct control development application 25-004 will have a 5-minute limit for speaking and must state their full name for the record, as well as state if they are speaking for themselves or on behalf of any group or organization. Mr. Tebow?
Again, we'll see Selena and Chris come forward. This is to council because it's a direct control for these portable signs.
All right, thank you. Welcome again.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So this one is very similar to a direct control. The process is the same. It's on town-owned land. So we run a public hearing so that anybody that has any concerns can come and speak, because again, there's no appeal period to these particular types of permits. In this particular case, it's because it's in the highway, or the road right-of-way for 46th Ave. So that's why it's being brought to council. I haven't received any written or verbal or phone calls, anything like that on this particular.
Very well, thank you. Is anyone present wishing to speak against direct control development application 25-004? Anyone wish to speak against development control application 25-004 second time? Anyone wishing to speak against direct control development application 25-004 a third and final time? Seeing none. Is there anyone present wishing to speak for direct control bylaw development application 25-004? Anyone wish to speak for direct control development application 25-004 a second time? Anyone wish to speak for the direct control development application 25-004 for a third and final time? Seeing none, someone make that required motion. Councilor McLean?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council accepts for information the input received at this public hearing for direct control development application DP 25-004.
Thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor?
Favor.
Carried unanimously. Thank you. I will also hereby close that hearing. On to item 3.4. Call that meeting to order related to item application 25-005. Also, members of the public in attendance who wish to speak against or for the direct control development application 25-005. Yeah. Have a 5-minute time limit for speaking and must state their full name for the record. Also must state if they are speaking for themselves or on behalf of any group or organization. Mr. Tebow?
We'll have the same deal come forward. And this is another portable sign just down the street from the previous one.
All right, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Good afternoon.
This particular public hearing is for just the second sign at this location. We've done them as two separate applications, therefore each gets its own public hearing.
All right, fairly straightforward, I think. Okay, and nothing
Nothing received
per-
either.
Great, thank you for that clarification. All right. Anyone wishing to speak against direct control development application 25-005? Anyone wishing to speak against direct control development application 25-005 a second time? Anyone wishing to speak against application 25-005 a third and final time? All right, seeing none. Does anyone present wish to speak for direct control bylaw or direct control development application 25-005? Anyone present wish to speak for direct control development application 25-005 a second time? Anyone present wish to speak for the direct control development application 25-005 a third and final time? Seeing none, someone prepared to make that motion? Councillor Firth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council accepts for information the input received at this public hearing for direct control development application DP 25-005.
Motion on the table. All in favor?
Favor.
Chair now I'm thinking, also hereby close that hearing. Yes, right. Yes, for somebody that needs to be talking less, not more, so. All right, so on to item 4, adoption of minutes, item 4.1, minutes of regular council meeting, January 27th, 2025. Mr. Tebow.
The minutes are in front of council. Administration has no adjustments to the minutes.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Someone prepared to make that motion? Councillor Firth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council adopts the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on January 27th, 2025 as presented.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Favor.
Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 5, business arise from the minutes. There are none. Item 6, bylaws. Item 6.1, second and third reading for land use bylaw amendment 2-2025. Mr. Tebow.
So we'll ask for Ms. Newberry and Mr. Egan to come up again and make the screen blink for us and speak to this one.
Too many. All right. Welcome once again.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So today we're seeking our second and third reading for bylaw amendment 2-2025. We did just have a public hearing for it at the beginning of the meeting. This particular lot is over by our sugar factory, and we're just the applicant is looking to have it rezoned from the heavy industrial district to the medium industrial district to give them more options for development in the future.
All right. Thank you. Any questions arising? Right. Councillor Rufford.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm willing to make the first motion that council gives second reading to bylaw 2-2025 to amend land use bylaw 13-2020.
Right. Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Favor.
Carried unanimously. Thank you. The next required motion, Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council gives third reading to bylaw 2-2025 to amend land use bylaw 13-2020.
All right. Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Favor.
Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item 6.2, second and third reading, land use bylaw amendment 3-2025. Councillor Sorensen.
Sorry, I was just late to the buzzer. I was going to make a motion
Well, that's,
on the previous item.
okay, that's what I'm saying. So would you
Sorry.
like to do it for this?
Yeah,
one?
I can.
That's why I kept
Okay.
you in the queue.
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion that council gives second reading to bylaw 3-2025 to amend land use bylaw 13-2020.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Favor.
Carried unanimously. Thank you. And the next required motion, Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council gives third reading to bylaw 3-2025 to amend land use bylaw 13-2020.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried
Favor.
unanimously. Carried unanimously. Thank you. All On to item 7, action items. Item 7.1, DP 25-004 46th Avenue and Barton Drive portable signage. Mr. Tebow.
Council's going to see the same two people.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So this application and the next application that you're going to see are quite similar. This particular application is for a portable sign located just kind of outside the Smitties. It's been there for a number of years. You'll see a number of conditions attached to it. There is usually a time limit for portable signs. It's generally 1 year, but anything that's a measurable standard can be varied. So in this particular case, we have asked that the time limit be tied to the road licensing agreement, which the applicant will also need to enter. And then when that expires, then they would do the permitting process again. So they would just kind of do it once with each time period. I believe the last time they did it was for 5 years, so I would expect it'll probably be similar again this time. And then they would still need to meet the requirements, any provincial requirements and things like that. And there is actually 45 meters between the two signs, so they do meet most of our bylaw requirements.
All right, very well. Any questions arising? Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd be prepared to make the first motion that
Right.
council approves development permit DP 25-004 for a portable sign at the corner of 46th Avenue and Barton Drive, Plan 9510236, with the following 11 conditions.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Favor.
Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item 7.2, DP 25-005 46th Avenue, Barton Drive, portable signage. Mr. Tebow.
One more time for council.
All right.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Mr. Mayor and Council. So this one is very similar to the last one. We're asking for the same time period for approval, that it's tied in with the roadside licensing agreement. Again, it's been there for a number of years. We've never really had any particular complaints or anything about it.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Councillor McLean?
No questions, just prepared to make a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Very well.
That council approves development permit DP 25-005 for a portable sign at the corner of 46th Avenue and Barton Drive, Plan 9510236, with the following 11 conditions as listed.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Favor.
Carried unanimously. Thank you. And thank you so much. Item 7.3, information for council. Mr. Tebow.
So quick turnaround on this one. This was a response to standing item 27-2025 regarding the flooring over at the archery center. So Mr. Egan will stay and go through that with council.
Afternoon, Mayor and Council. So as Mr. Tebow mentioned, this is the response to standing item 27-2025, archery range flooring. It turns out that in the previous year, our facilities manager, Blake Horanek, has been in contact with the group that uses the range and was reviewing the flooring situation. We did do some work to try and remediate some of the pour water pressure that's causing the spalling of that particular covering, and did some investigation as far as what flooring might be suitable in its place. We do have it is a very technical problem to try and get something to stick to that floor. We do have a contractor who's willing to apply an epoxy material and warranty it, which is the most important part. And so that was actually brought forward in the 2025 capital budget consideration from Public Works and Facilities. It came forward, though, as a priority 2 because it's not structural and there wasn't any ramifications. It's mostly cosmetic, but as you can see from the picture and from the capital project proposal sheet, there's more information on that. So that's the information we have in our hands as administration at this moment in time.
All right, thank you. Councillor Rufford.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That sounds all great. So I'd like to, council directs administration to move forward with the Archie Range flooring treatment in the amount of $35,000 to be funded from the 2025 capital reserves.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor?
In favor.
Carry unanimously. Thank you. On to item 7.4, standing items. Council requests. Mr. Tebow.
Mr. Tebow is happy to report that we have completed both of these items. One we just completed and the one previous was completed from Councillor Sorensen. So over to council if there's any new items to list.
All right, thank you. Any new standing item council requests? Councillor Firth.
Can't let the list stay empty, sorry. I was out walking on the weekend and I walked by the tennis courts and I noticed that the nets, the pickleball nets and the tennis court, like the tennis nets are also still up. And I was just curious if that is something that usually happens if they get left up in the wintertime or if they usually come down, what the process was. My thought was just that usually things last longer if we can put them away over the winter, but I wasn't sure what the process usually is. I don't play tennis in the winter, so.
All right, Mr. Tebow.
I'm not versed well enough to know if they come down or not, but it certainly makes sense that they would come down for lasting. They can come down and be brought inside. I think the pickleball ones are portable nets, right? They just sit there. Yeah, so I can take that away and ask Recreation Department what the plan is for that or why it's still the way it is. I don't know that we need a motion on that. I can probably just follow that up and move on something.
All right. Got that covered. Thank you. All right. Any other standing item council requests? Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just a concerned businessman called me the other day in regards to 46th Avenue. They heard that it might be turned into a one-way, and they're quite opposed to this. So I was just wondering if administration can share that information.
All right, thank you. So that would be Highway 3 we're talking? 46th Avenue, did you say?
So the
service
side
road?
street, the service road, yeah.
Oh, okay, all right. Just in front of Shoppers?
Fitch Tire.
Okay, great. Thank you. Mr. Tebow?
So there's nothing that administration is aware of that's suggesting that that's going to be made a one-way that we know anything about. So I don't think we need a standing item on
No.
that one, but there's nothing that we're aware of. There's been no report that we have. I believe I did share the report that MP provided for the different options over there because of an intersection. The activity going up in the intersection, and there was no mention in that report of a one-way anything that I recall, unless council
And I
members
think,
recall
as I
something.
recall also, Mr. Tebow, was it not 2027 was kind of earmarked when something should change or be added to over there? Is that accurate?
According to the report, it was end of 2027 or maybe the beginning of 2028 when they thought it might be volumes would get to a place where it poses problems. Yep.
So nothing planned to do anything prior to that?
There was nothing immediate, no, according to their traffic study.
Okay, all right, great, thank you. Councillor Sorensen, that's good for now.
Yeah, that's good, and I'll report back to
All right.
the citizen.
Great.
And then I do have one more
Sure,
thing.
you bet.
So in regards to my standing item 310 slash 2024 back in September, in regards to just the gap of communication or the lack of media presence for the town council in reporting activities, reporting events, special guests. I would like to move this forward again to see if something can be brought forward. I know it was supposed to be discussed in budget, but I don't recall that conversation.
All right, Mr. Tebow.
Councillor Sorensen, you don't recall that conversation because it didn't happen yet. So you're right. It has been put through for the amended budget. We do have some quotes that came our direction, and there'll be an explanation of what it is that we have, and I believe that's coming in March. So that was going to be the response to the standing item.
Then
All
I'll
right,
just look forward to March then.
Okay,
Thank
great,
you.
thank you. Any other new standing item council requests? All right, Seeing none, delegations have been taken care of. Any immediate inquiries?
There are none.
All right, I'll just ask for a motion to move into our meal break and reconvene back into closed session. Motion on the table, all in favor? Carried unanimous.
In favor,
Carried
but be
unanimous.
quick.
Thank you.
Councillor Brown, don't forget that there's a separate link for closed session.
Wait.